Jazz fans demonstratively say no to the Zion Williamson trade. Huh? Based on? With what expectation? How come? Are y'all nuts? It's next on Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps and on YouTube. Everydayers, you're the greatest. Thank you so much for tuning in each and every day and being a part of this program and walking you all the way up till draft day. Here's the plan, by the way. I don't know if I've said this. I will be with you till next Thursday. And then my son graduates from college. And we're going to go do that. And then we're going to take a little vacation with him for his graduation present. And so then Leaf Tulane takes over next Friday, a week from Friday, with all of his draft breakdowns, which will be amazing for you because he's better coming up to the draft than I am. So that's what's coming up for you. Just want to make sure I got there. All right, we will look at the NBA Finals and our final in Tyrese Haliburton, the new greatest player ever. Suns coaching search is down to 5 and has a familiar and interesting name. In the mock draft, the 21st pick is on the board. Where should I go? But we start with your rejection of my incredible deal to get Zion Williamson on the Utah Jazz. My deal was amazing. I just want to point that out. Universally, when I've run this through NBA people, which is a risky little venture to tell NBA people you're part of a mock draft and see what they think of your deal, I've gotten 100% out of 100%, and most people say, why would Nola possibly do it? And Jazz fans have said no. They want no part of it. Jazz Nation posted on Instagram. There were 73 comments. I read them all. It was probably 50-20 no. On our YouTube channel on Locked on Jazz, would you trade the 5th pick of this year's draft for Zion Williamson? It's on the board in a mock draft. The trade was Zion Williamson, Jordan Hawkins, Milwaukee's 2026 first-round pick to the Jazz. Milwaukee's 2026 first-round pick. And the 5th pick, Colin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson. And I probably gave it a second. 63% of the people said no. 63% of the people said no. All right. You have spoken, or at least 63% of you, which is generally kind of how I thought Jazz Nations was. That's, maybe I thought that was a little more, no, pretty dramatically no. You're not willing to take the risk on Zion. There were 3 universal reasons why everyone said no. One was Zion's injuries. Got it. 100%. Don't know how you think you're acquiring top 10, top 15 talent in the NBA without risk. Okay? So you're right. Zion has missed more games than he's played. And there's a chance that you're risking the 5th pick of this draft and maybe setting your timeline back a year if Zion doesn't plan out, which I might argue has already been pushed back a year by the Taylor Hendricks injury. Didn't get into that yesterday. I do think the Taylor Hendricks injury, just side note, is way more significant than we talk about. It's just kind of 2 things happened when Taylor Hendricks got injured. One is out of survival. We just kind of stopped talking about it. And 2, he got way better. It's a unique thing. It happens. He got way better. When we suddenly he stopped playing and he didn't play anymore. And in people's minds, he got way better. He's got so far to go. And he's got a year in which he's got to come back from a massive injury instead of worry about development. And then he's got to start developing again. I don't think we know who Taylor Hendricks is for 2 or 3 seasons. Very unfortunate. Maybe Taylor surprises us all, but that's not a criticism of Taylor. That's just a realistic, like, all of next year is getting back in shape, playing the game. And at some point along the way, he gets comfortable enough, he starts learning again, but he was way behind still in the game. He's much bigger, much stronger. Redshirt years are actually good. I got it. Okay. Side note. So the first reason why everybody seemed to be against the Zion was the injuries. Totally legit. And the only question I ask you is, at this stage, at this moment, how do you think you're getting top 15 talent on this roster without risk? And what, just for interest, I'm not saying you have to trade the 5th pick, but if you were to trade the 5th pick, what player would be acceptable for you in the NBA to trade the 5th pick for? I think that's maybe the most interesting question, and it would be very fun to do the thought out exercise with everyone on what that is, because you're not getting Giannis, right? Like, if you run through the top 10 players in the league, you're not getting any of them for, if you run through the top 20 players in the league, you're not getting any of them for the 5th pick of the draft. Devin Booker's not coming to Utah for that. Tyrese Haliburton certainly isn't. Jaylen Brown's probably not coming for the 5th pick. So you're not getting any of the top 30 players in the NBA unless you can get Trae Young. And I would guess, if I did a show tomorrow on the Jazz trade for Trae Young, the answer would be 60% no. I don't think you're getting a top 40 player in the NBA for the 5th pick of the draft. If you called Philadelphia tomorrow and asked for the 5th pick for Tyrese Maxey, probably not. If some, like, depends where you have, like, somebody like Derek White or Zubac or someone like that. And then I think, like, the best player I think you can get for the 5th pick of the draft would either be Trae Young, Zion Williamson, or maybe you're into Scotty Barnes, Austin Reeves, Tyler Hero, who are 40s. So if you're saying no to Zion, I ask you, what do you think you're going to get for the 5th pick of the draft if you were to trade? Okay, so that gets to number 2. If you're saying no to the trade because you want the 5th pick, because I saw a bunch of, well, I want Trae Johnson. I like Trae Johnson too. Who do you think Trae Johnson's going to be? Like, I'm nervous for this poor 5th pick coming to Utah. Who do we think this is going to be our best player, right? Like, immediately, maybe Lowry's better, but of our young players, this will immediately be our best player. Agreed. On the top side, I really like Trae Johnson. On the top side, the top side, when I watch Trae Johnson, and I get super excited, my highest player I can come up with is Bradley Beal. It's really good. 3-time All-Star, 1-time All-NBA. That's a great player. I mean, that is a great player. In 2021, his 1 year, he was a top 15 player and 3rd team All-NBA once. Okay. Now, I'm not trying to criticize Trae Johnson. I could do this same thing. When I watch VJ Edgecombe, my best case scenario is Victor Oladipo. 2-time All-Star, 1-time 3rd team All-NBA. So the high side projection on Trae Johnson and Victor Oladipo, at least in my opinion, is that each of them become NBA All-Stars. And if they hit their max, that each of them at some point in time are a 3rd team All-NBA player for a single season. That was Oladipo's 17-18 season, 25 years old. This one time he averaged over 23 points a game in Indiana. He had most improved player. He had a monster year. So the high side on the 5th pick of the draft, in my opinion, on these two players, just my opinion, is that each of them for a given year of their career could be a top 15 NBA player. Not consistently, for a single season. But it is worth noting that Victor Oladipo played 11 years in the NBA, was a great player, and in 9 of those 11 years did not make an all-star team. Bradley Beal is a flippin' stud. Bradley Beal has been in the league for 13 years. In 10 of the 13 years, did not make an all-star team. I think it's fine to say no to Zion Williamson. I don't think it's crazy. But answer the question of what do you expect from the 5th pick of this draft realistically? We'll continue on that, plus a bugaboo we've got to get over as a fan base next on Locked On Jazz. Wednesday edition of Locked On Jazz is brought to you by my good friends over at Intercap Lending. Steve Carter, it's just the best. It's just so cool for me. Here's what's so cool. Because we have this relationship with Steve Carter, I get to sit here with 100% confidence and tell you about Intercap Lending. Know that if you need a loan right now and you follow my instructions and go to Steve Carter and we get you set up, that you will have the best experience you possibly could. I don't know if what your loan will be. I don't know any of those. I just know 110% that Steve Carter will be attentive. He'll be fast. He'll be considerate. He'll be hospitable. And he'll treat you like you're awesome. And to me, sitting here telling you about Intercap Lending, that's the greatest gift I can have. Intercap Lending is a mortgage company that's shaking up things by making home loans more accessible, straightforward, and personal. If you're buying a new home, if you're refinancing, if you're buying a first home, if you're exploring options as a veteran, Intercap is here. And we have Steve Carter, who's our own personal dedicated loan officer with a people-first approach that is unprecedented. So send me an email at dlock09@gmail.com and let me connect you to Steve Carter, the master of customer service. The underwriting times are still at 24 hours. Most banks take 4 to 7 days to get a decision from an underwriter, but not at Intercap, while they're still servicing 60% of their loans. It's Intercap Lending. Steve Carter's our own personal loan officer. Just email me at dlock09@gmail.com and let me get you the VIP treatment you deserve. NBA fans, it's the playoffs, and it's time for a slam dunk deal from DoorDash for Dash Pass members during the 2025 NBA playoffs. It's called They Swoosh, You Score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more in a playoff game, Dash Pass members score a free 3-piece crispy tender combo from Wingstop. That's right, from Wingstop. The very next day, just place an order of $20 or more. Use the code WINGSTOP50 at checkout, and the combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, and totally free. Offer valid noon to midnight the day after the game. Terms do apply. So what's your go-to move after an epic game? Are you ordering wings, reveling in the highlights, imagining what it's like to be rewarded with free food when someone goes off? You got it. That's going to all happen if you're a Dash Pass member. So here's the play. Sign up for Dash Pass to unlock this and more executive deals all season long. When any player scores 50 in a playoff game, Dash Pass members grab a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the next day with $20 order and code WINGSTOP50. That's Dash Pass, your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms apply. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. Super appreciate it. Locked On NBA Big Board with Raphael and brother James. There for you each and every day as well. All right. So I just think it's a worthwhile conversation. I think the Zion conversation has led to a very good conversation on what is it we really think the 5th pick can do? Right. So last year was a terrible draft, and the 5th pick was Ron Holland. We don't actually know if he'll play in the NBA. The 5th pick is a Seward Thompson the year before in a loaded draft. Jaden Ivey the year before that. These are not like Jalen Suggs the year before that. Like Isaac Okoro the year before that. And I'm not saying every fifth pick is the same. Darius Garland in 2019 was terrific. Trae Young in 2018. What was a loaded draft? De'Aaron Fox in 2017. De'Aaron Fox is a pretty great player, but he's like 35th best in the NBA. Maybe. Chris Dunn in a not very good 2016 draft. Mario Hezonja in a 2015 draft that people will regret. Dante Exum in a 2014 draft. Alex Len in the 2013 draft. This is ugly. Thomas Robinson in the 2012 draft. This is one heck of a streak by fifth picks. And Jonas Valanciunas in 2011 draft. DeMarcus Cousins in 2020, only because somebody was silly enough to take Wesley Johnson. And then Ricky Rubio taking 2 picks before Steph Curry, which ends all draft conversations. I want to address one other thing I read in a ton of comments. And I want you to listen, please, closely. Okay? Don't get outraged. Just listen. So the thing that kept being said time and time again, Zion wouldn't want to be here. So I have 2 comments on that. What's that based on? That concerns me. Like, if Zion, like, why? Why? He's a small town, South Carolina kid, went to Duke, and has played in New Orleans. Like, he's been in no legal trouble. I mean, he went to, I think he was born in Salisbury, North Carolina, if I remember correctly, small town, South Carolina. So, somewhere, okay. Like, why? Like, what makes you say that? No, really. Think about it. So that's like, I just want to really chew on that one for a second. Okay? What are you saying? The second one on this concept of he doesn't want to be here is, if I just take it on face value without overthinking it like I might have in the first part or implying some other stuff, no one wants to be here. Listen closely. There's no NBA player that wakes up in the morning and says, I hope I go to Sacramento. There's no NBA player that wakes up in the morning and says, I hope to go to Utah. There's no NBA player that wakes up in the morning and says they hope to go to Detroit or Cleveland or Oklahoma City. Probably or Portland. Most places. Almost all of them, in fact. If you're 25 and have millions of dollars, you might want to go to Miami or Los Angeles, maybe New York, but that hasn't shown to be true. Maybe San Francisco. Maybe if you're from there, Dallas or Houston, but that hasn't totally shown. So there's a flaw in the concept. And that is that most players don't want to go where they go. Most people don't want to go to Philly. It's a big city, pretty awesome. They don't go to Philly. That's the truth. There's these players don't have free will on where they get to go. They go wherever they get drafted and they get traded to. And your responsibility at that point is to try to build an organization that's good enough. And also, by the way, in an era in which they only can force themselves out of trades to go somewhere, you try to build it the best you possibly can. Ryan and Ashley Smith are doing that as well as they possibly can. You cannot live as an NBA fan or an NBA organization under just this utter fear all the time of, oh, they don't want to be here. Because no one wants to be here. I do. I love to ski. I think it's the greatest place on the planet. I can't believe I'm lucky enough to live here. I have gratitude and gratefulness toward it every day. But I'm not a 25-year-old NBA player. And a 25-year-old NBA player doesn't want to be any of these places. Now, I promise you they don't want to be in Oklahoma City. They might decide that it's worth to be in Oklahoma City for a year or two because they're going to win a title. Maybe not. It's pretty hellacious. But that's what you're trying to do. So this kind of constant narrative that I read in all of the comment sections, and maybe I shouldn't worry about comments, but this was literally thrown out to comments. That's what this is about. But they don't want to be here. First, I just ask you, like, who does? And what is it you're looking for that would make you ever say a player does want to be here? Like, who would that player be? I mean, it seemed like the kid from Indiana might have been that guy, right? Seemed like the intellectual kid from Greenwich, Connecticut might have been that guy. So, like, let's lose that narrative. Because one, it inhibits any progress. Two, it ignores the work that Ryan and Ashley Smith are trying to do to make this as appealing as any place possible. And I love Ryan's narrative that we're not a small market. And frankly, I'm not sure being a small market matters right now, since if you combine Indiana and Oklahoma City, you still aren't in the top 15 markets in the NBA. That is true. You combined Indiana and combine Oklahoma City and put it together, you're the 16th biggest market in the NBA. And they're going to play in the finals, and we're going to have the worst TV ratings in the history of the league, and everyone's going to create a narrative out of it that's not true too. So that'll be my next rant. So I just wanted to address that. Like, what is possibly based on that he doesn't want to be here if we traded for Zion Williamson? Why? And who does? And what are the cities in which someone wants to be to? Let's ask it that way. Rather than criticizing Utah or criticizing Salt Lake City, ask it like, what cities does somebody want to be to? There's 5. No one wants to go to Indiana. Trust me. So we got to kind of get over that, frankly. The 21st pick of the NBA Locked On Mock Draft is on the board right now. Let me tell you who I'm choosing from and see what you think next on Locked On Jazz. The mock draft is going on. I don't want to ruin all of it for you. It'll be done the 16th. But as we get close to the 21st pick, some of the names of interest are off the board. Carter Bryant went very early, which is an Arizona kid I've been intrigued by. Igor Denman went right where he expected. I've got a lot of people that said, well, I haven't talked about Igor Denman. Okay, well, Jake Hatch can talk about it, Locked On Cougars, but we have the 5th and 21st pick, and he's going to go somewhere between 11 and 17. So I can talk about Igor Denman, certainly, but like from a Jazz standpoint, Igor Denman is not someone. Nick Clifford, who out of Colorado State, who I really like, but it's another guard. And we already have Isaiah Keontae, Bryce. I think we should draft him, but I don't think that Nick Clifford is dramatically better than those. And you got to draft someone who's got to have a route to getting on the floor. He went 17. Danny Wolf out of Michigan, who's kind of a poor man's Kyle Filipowski, in my opinion, went 18. By the time we got to 21, there were, I would say, 5 really interesting players on the board. And those 5 players on the board were the following. So Colin Murray-Boyles, who's this kind of big, huge, and I think some of this might be slightly educational. I don't think a lot of people have dug deeply into the 21st pick. So Colin Murray-Boyles is out of South Carolina. Was a sophomore. He's 6'6", 240 pounds. He plays with the ball in his hands. He's got some offensive playmaking skills to him. He averaged 17 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. He is not really much of a shooter. There aren't a lot of players that match his. Like, one of the scouting things I believe in is like, okay, his best case scenario is Draymond Green. Okay, well, that's not going to happen because Draymond Green's going to the Hall of Fame. And maybe it is, but it's probably not. And so who's next on the list? It's like when people say, well, he's the next Charles Barkley. Well, he also might be the next Clarence Williamson, or he might be the next Byron Houston. You don't remember those names because they didn't play. So that's a little bit how I feel in Colin Murray-Boyles. Jace Richardson is on the board for us. He's a freshman out of Michigan State. I think these are very realistic, by the way. He's 6 feet tall. 6'6" wingspan. His dad's Jace Richardson. He played at Michigan State. He shot it really well. He comes out really well in our numbers. He's a real possibility. Again, we get into a little funny game here where we have Isaiah Collier, who's not so good that you don't draft a player in that position, but you also need to have a route for them to get on the floor. Walter Clayton Jr. out of Florida is on the board. He had the incredible NCAA tournament run. He's 6'2". He's another guard. He's 22 years old. You have to be a little nervous because he really prospered later in his career, but he had some fabulous numbers last year. Thomas Sorber is on the board and really interesting to me. He's out of Georgetown. There's a lot of players that are interesting here in this realm that we're all kind of on the board. This is at 21 is going to be a really interesting pick. There's just a lot of players. Sorber averaged 15 points, 9 rebounds. He got hurt. He plays crazy hard. He had a foot injury in February that kind of ended his season. He's 6'9" and a quarter, so he's not quite big enough. He's 262 pounds, but he has a 7'6" wingspan, which begins to make you think he can make up for some of his height. He's low, wide, big screen setter. Kayvon Looney type maybe would be a good comp here. He's really, to me, jumps out as a pretty intelligent player. Maybe he's Wendell Carter Jr., who I've always really loved, maybe overly. I think he's really interesting. Liam McNally out of UConn is on the board here. This is an interesting, kind of does a lot of things, plays a lot of different, but I thought he fell down a lot, honestly, which is of all weird things. He's 6'6", 20 years old, 214 pounds. You can see it. He plays with the ball in his hands. I'm a little nervous on it. My choice and my pick that I think I would make in this circumstance, but curious what you guys think, is the kid out of Illinois, Will Riley, Canadian. I'm a fan. I think there's a lot in here. This is a little bit of a projection pick. I like the fact he's 6'8". Like, honestly, like that's it. His wingspan is not great, though. He's just 6'8" on his wingspan. I look at 6'8" kids and it's like, yeah, they all end up playing in the league. I thought he did just a lot of different things in how he played. He was on an Illinois team where he wasn't always in the rhythm of the game. He shot it okay. He's 6'8". I thought he showed some athleticism. He just showed pieces. Huge projection here. Right? Like, I'm basically taking tiny little pieces, which is frankly what I did with Cody Williams, and we'll see how that works out. Obviously, initial season was as rough as it can be. We'll see whether he can put this together a little bit. And there were pictures of him in a gym reworking his whole shot recently on the internet. Like, hopefully that works out. When I looked at, I'm trying to find my numbers on Will Riley. I don't see them. Where are they? Here we go. So the interesting one on Will Riley that's a little nerve-wracking is that he was in the 35th percentile in transition. He's in the 90th percentile in isolation on 48 attempts, which I certainly saw in the film that he had this like ability to get free. 49th percentile in spot-up shooting, which is average. Catch and shoot, 48th percentile. And off the bounce dribble, he took 99 of them, which is a lot for this kind of level of the draft, and was in the 46th percentile. At 19 years old, 6'8", Canadian, just feels like there's a lot of pieces there that possibly could come together. Now, right, Asa Newell was gone. Neat Clifford was gone. One of the two French kids was gone. So, to a little bit to that level, that's the thought. But that's the choice at 21 that I had in the mock draft. Interesting your thoughts on that. Tyrese Haliburton last night, 30 points, 10 rebounds, 15 assists, 0 turnovers. There is a fundamental change going into the game right now, the NBA, of what's important, what's not, how rosters are built, what players are better than we think. It's really interesting to see what's taking place here. Turnovers are becoming a major, this is becoming possession game has become one of the most important things, and to have someone who doesn't turn it over in ball possession. Oklahoma City lives by winning on the edges on ball position. Mark Dagnall is a genius basketball coach in being able to win 1% here, 2% there, 0.5% there. And by the end of the night, he's improved their chances by 8% and they win. The other one, I would just say, watching the playoffs, and this may be not any different than but you got to be tough and you got to be deep. You got to be tough, though. Right? We're seeing some guys play who don't usually play, or we're seeing some guys who play who then don't play. Almost universally, it's coming down to toughness. Neesmith, Nembhard, they can play because they're tough. Thomas Bryant's not very tough. Couldn't play for Indiana. Landry Shamet can play because he's tough. Right? Like, we're seeing OG Anunoby can play because he's tough. We're seeing guys that can play because they got a little. Terrence Shannon Jr. suddenly playing for Minnesota because he's an elite athlete and he's tough. There's some physically strong. Something really to that. Like physically strong. I have to admit, like Will Riley doesn't strike me as that watching him at Illinois. I'm not sure any of these kids do it. I think that might be the trickiest thing about the draft, trying to figure out which of them will actually have the toughness. There aren't a lot. You don't watch a lot of these guys and say, oh, he's really tough. They've never had to be tough at 19. That is Locked On Jazz today. Thanks so much for tuning in. What do we got tomorrow? Thursday show. I'm trying to get a really special week next week, looking at the top 5 picks and doing some fun stuff. We'll see if I can get that done. It is Locked On Jazz. Thank you very much for tuning in. Follow me on the socials at DLock09. Subscribe or follow the show if you haven't already. 5-star reviews are greatly appreciated. You're the best. Thanks for being a part of the community. It is Locked On Jazz. We send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel, Locked On NBA. Plus, check out Locked On NBA Big Board for draft coverage.